This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Friday. I am Erica Lukes, and always a pleasure to be here. I'm very thrilled to be on my new network, my new home, KCOR. It is Fantopia Friday, so that means you have a night full of fantastic, empowered women who are getting the word out there to the world about all of these cool things happening with extraterrestrial phenomenon and the research. I love being here. I love having all of you here. So if you're listening tonight, you don't know who I am. I am the Utah MUFON State Director. I research the UFO phenomenon and ET contact. My mission in life is to empower witnesses to come forward and to make this an accessible thing so we can research the phenomenon as it needs to be researched and stop with the games and the silliness and all of that stuff. I have a killer show tonight. I have Paola Harris, who is a role model to me. She is going to be on the first hour, and then the second hour, I'm bringing in my friend Pat, who was the witness to, he is the ham radio operator and the instigator of this case that I'm working on that is absolutely fantastic. So stick around. You can find me on Facebook at UFO Classified, and let's get the show on. Tonight, I have the privilege of being with somebody who I said she is a role model to me. She is fearless. She's an advocate. She has dedication, and I love the fact that she is a woman, a strong woman in a field of male domination that is changing, and we are grateful to people like Paola. She's a journalist. She has authored several books connecting the dots, making sense of the UFO phenomena, exopolitics, how does one speak to a ball of light. I love it. I just want to know everything about what she's done. I watch her video interviews. They are all available on YouTube, most notably with Canadian former Defense Minister Paul Hellyer. That is a groundbreaking, exceptional interview. Dr. Edgar Mitchell, wonderful interview. John Mack, she has had a lifetime full of working with the best people in this field. Dr. Alan Hynek. She had the pleasure of becoming friends with Colonel Corso. His story is fantastic. Stephen Greer. I am pleased to have you here, Paola. Thank you for spending your Friday night here.
Well, thank you, Erica, for inviting me. And, you're so right. I like your intro because this field doesn't have enough women, and you're one of the upcoming women in the field, and we really have a whole different 360-degree perspective on the phenomenon, and we have a different perspective. We do the nuts and bolts work, and I know you do that for MUFON, right. But we can also see all the nuances especially because a lot of this is paranormal. It's, yes, you have a sighting, but there's all this paranormal activity around not only contact, but around sightings, and we have to put it all together. Alan Hynek, with whom I worked for many years, and, people know him from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and they know him from Project Blue Book. He told me that I had to look at all of it, that I could not just take data down. In other words, copy the data. I had to talk to the witnesses, look at where this all happened, the locations and so forth, and most of all, study the history, because a lot of these things that happen in sacred sites. They happen in sacred places, or places where there's, especially where you guys are in Utah, a lot of activity, which is Area 51 type activity.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff going on. You have to look at the whole picture, and I think women do that.
And you are so right on about that, because in this male-dominated field, and you hit it right on the head. Men, I don't mean to be, I don't want to generalize things, but I think sometimes they do have that nuts and bolts, very looking at specifics, and I think sometimes we can have, as women, have the ability to look at the overall scope of things, and then we're able to make connections where perhaps a man couldn't, and vice versa. So we both add a lot to this, especially if we're working together and really pushing for new types of research and acceptance.
Yeah, well, we're wired that way. We use both sides of the brain. We use the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. We're wired that way naturally. So I think that you're absolutely right. And I think it's been hard, and I will tell you, I've been in the field since I met Dr. Hynek in 1980, so we're talking like at least 30, 35 years, and it's been difficult because in order to gain the credibility that I have today, and you told me you have international audience, well, my career was really took off in Italy, because I lived in Italy from 1992 to in 2007 when I moved back to the United States. I'm now in Colorado. In Italy, it was totally different. I could work in a different format, and I did a lot of research in Europe. So right now, I knew all the American cases because you have to do your homework. So I worked in Europe a lot, and then right now, as we speak, my focus is on Latin America, and I'm finding out so much. And I don't understand one thing, and I will tell you this on the air. How can people that are researching not research the whole world and cases in all of the world? Because, the UFO phenomenon is not an American phenomenon.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think that when I look at it and I go outside of the United States, first of all, I see a much more accepting environment, a much more open-minded field. And I also see that this is something that is accepted. This is something that they almost honor in different parts of the world, especially Latin America. And they have a respect for it. So lots of other countries don't feel the need to keep proving or believing, because it is happening. It's a real thing.
Yeah, and the thing is that we look at it, and I'm very jaded in my old age, we look at it here in this country as entertainment. You go to a conference, everybody wears T-shirts, they sell gadgets, and it's entertainment. And in Europe, if you're going to a conference like the one in Barcelona that I attended in 2009 that had Brian O'Leary and Michael Sala and Stephen Bassett and Greer, Dr. Greer, and all these people, plus it had Javier Sierra from Spain and Jean-Charles Duboc, the pilot that had the sighting over Paris. When you look at that, there's nothing commercial when you walked in. It was not a place where they had like statues of little gray aliens or all this stuff. Because who came into that conference in Barcelona were professors and astronomers and people who were curious. They were professional people, and often I feel that here it's just too. It's like Disneyland. I don't know what to say. And anybody who is a Michio Kaku or someone in the scientific field doesn't want to go to anything like that. So because it has that commercialized view, and I'm going to lead into Laughlin, because I've tried to change the paradigm with the Starworks Laughlin conference that takes place the 11th, 12th, and 13th of November. And I've tried not only to bring in international people, we have 7 this year, 3 from Italy, 1 from Australia, 3 from South America, and 1 from Denmark. And I'm bringing in international people, but there is no gadgets, and there's nothing, that in fact, all our images are mostly the Hubble telescope and the universe. And, we have we're going to have an art show because the theme is art. And one of the speakers, who's a woman, Lavinia Pallotta from X Times Magazine in Rome, she'll be talking about all the UFOs and Renaissance art.
Oh, how
so
wonderful.
Yeah, isn't that great? Because we just can't be playing on abductions all the time, which, I have a personal bias that we need to change the vocabulary because some of these encounters are contact. They're not all abduction. The thing is that is what's, leading the stereotype of UFO conferences in the United States is that you see these little gray aliens all over the place, and that is not what it is, especially with my work in Latin America where they have actually human-type beings that are meeting with people in Peru. And so in every case, I'm trying to change a paradigm. I'm trying to, if you look at the postcard, you look at the publicity on Starworks, and I'm so honored to have you as a speaker.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be there. I am excited beyond belief.
Well, I have 8 women and 8 men, and I'm going, am I the only one? I was just looking at the one they have in Southern California. There's 13 men and 1 woman, Linda Howe, and I'm going, that's on the poster? I mean, we're in 2016. How in the world? Why are posters like 13 men and 1 woman? And what they might say is there aren't any out there, but that's not true.
No, that isn't true at all. I know so many great women in this field.
I know. One of them, and I hope you get her on your show, is Joan Bird. She lives up in Montana and has written a book on Montana UFOs, but she's also very much into the whole entire consciousness movement. So there's so many women that just aren't given the attention. And Laughlin in November is going to have 8 women and 8 men, and it's a balance. I think it's a balance, but I think it's ever so important to stress that research, no matter what kind of research, and by the way, UFO research is not just data collecting.
Absolutely.
It's interviewing, and that's what I do. I'm like Barbara Walters. I go and speak to people. It's all of it. It's interviewing. It's talking to scientists. My greatest interviews from connecting the dots have to do with John Mack, Colonel Philip Corso. The day after Roswell, I was the only journalist to get close to him, and I brought him to Europe. And people like, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, people like Monsignor Balducci of the Vatican, the whole Vatican situation I studied when I was in Europe. And, these people, a lot of intelligence people, the remote viewing people.
Yes.
The whole remote viewing, if you go into remote viewing in the SRI studies at Stanford, you'll find that it was very UFO-oriented.
Absolutely.
They wanted information.
It's so fascinating. I sit here and I listen to you talk about all of these people that I have read about and just hold in such high admiration. It is how incredible. And I know the passing of Dr. Edgar Mitchell was hard on everyone, and you were moved. I think that he was such a wonderful human being, and what a loss.
Yes, and his daughter invited me to his memorial ceremony down in Palm Beach, and it was really an eye-opener for me because, there was NASA sitting there and the family, and they did not mention his involvement very much with ions and noetic sciences, which is, when Edgar Mitchell came back from his moon expedition, he was Apollo 14, sixth man to walk on the moon. He had an epiphany. He had a moment where he was one with the universe, and it kind of changed his his direction. He was looking into in the 70s when he came back. He was looking into ESP. He was looking into quantum mechanics. He was looking into that at Stanford Research Project there, and he wanted to know what part of us is consciousness. And so this is a nuts and bolts engineer who went into that field, and they didn't mention it very much at his memorial, and there was kind of it's really hard in the scientific world to admit that there's this element. And people, I think a lot of them aren't as courageous as Edgar Mitchell to come forward. But what I remember him the most for, Erica, is that I was at the Washington Press Club when he was at one of Stephen Bassett's 7 events in Washington, D.C., and he said at the Washington Press Club, and here's a very credible person, it is time to open up the files on Roswell. Those were not crash test dummies, and that was no mogul balloon. Oh. And I mean, it's silliness. You mentioned the word silliness. If you went to Roswell, and I've been there so many times and talked to the people, they know the difference between mogul balloons and something very strange.
Absolutely. And the whole, I interviewed James Clarkson, who became friends with June Crane, and to hear her story and to hear what the people in Roswell went through at the hands of the government, trying to silence them and then turn things around to make them look like certain people look like fools. It was really it was such a impactful in so many ways, not just the initial crash, but what happened to those people throughout their whole life.
Yeah, and one of the people that I want to remember is Walter Haught. He and his daughter Julie, who's passed on, were the directors of the UFO Museum down there. And when Walter Haught died, he left an affidavit to Tom Carey and Don Schmidt. He left a written statement saying, because he was the information officer that put out that first newspaper article, he left an affidavit saying that he not only did that, it was real, but he also saw the bodies in the hair. And, these people, this is a death affidavit. They're not lying when they're about ready to die. And so it's a game we're playing here. It's a game we're playing, It's like if we admit Roswell was real, we have to talk about all the other lies. And we don't want to talk about all the other lies, so we're not going to talk about Roswell, and that's very sad. By the way, Edgar Mitchell was born in Roswell, so that's one of the reasons he had a stake in opening up the files. And Stephen Schiff, who was the councilman that died of cancer, tried to do it in Arizona. He tried to do it in New Mexico. I think, it was New Mexico. He wanted the government to come clean because, I've done so much research on crashes. Ryan Wood's book, Magic 12, and they can get it. Ryan Wood has written a book on 93 UFO crashes, and they're not all in America. I mean, the Virginia Brazil one is very, very well known, and there's all kinds of people still alive who assisted at that situation, the Virginia case. So, if people really do their homework, see, my big gripe, and I'll tell you this, is we don't study this like we do geology, anthropology, psychology. We don't study ufology like that. I mean, People only know their little story, and they don't bother to read anybody else's book.
And it's so, to me that is so sad because I find this the most fascinating, deeply moving thing that I have ever looked into or researched. And it has really shaped me. And I know the people that are in-depth researchers feel the same way. I don't understand. For me personally, I don't understand why somebody wouldn't want to look into this, being that it is so profound.
Well, they don't want to look into it because it's too much trouble and it's entertainment. They just, unfortunately, we have, it's called, I've heard it called the cottage industry. So, you go to a conference, you sell your books, and that's all there is. And you don't bother to connect any dots or go and talk to other people. And, you don't, because if they did do that, they would be able to get the whole entire picture. I mean, if we did have a think tank where we sat around a table, all different people like Travis Walton and, Kathleen Martin and some Europeans and the people from Roswell and everything, we'd look at the commonalities and we'd be able to get a picture of this. But as long as it becomes compartmentalized and nobody talks to anybody and nobody reads anybody's books, then probably the micromanagers, I don't call them the government, that group that keeps us secret is very happy.
Exactly.
Because, all they do is fight among themselves. Everybody's fighting, so they go, whoa. Colonel Corso told me, he says, we don't have to do anything. We just watch you guys.
Oh, I know.
And I go, oh, no, Colonel. And he said, basically, you people don't know how to get along, and everybody thinks they have the truth. So what happens is that we don't have, because Colonel Corso was intelligence. He was in the intelligence. Yeah. He was in the CIC before the CIA was made. And he basically said, we just watched you do this. And we don't have to do anything. We don't have to put out disinformation because you guys do it.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing, yeah. And I'm thinking, oh no, he's right. How can we change it?
Oh, and that's been for me coming into it with a fresh perspective. I just think, wow, this is a dysfunctional group, and we need to, like you said, we need to just all get over our differences and things, because there are so many things we can all learn from each other, and everybody's story is just as important as the other person's. And I think what we really need to do is just get the lower level nonsense out of the way. And I always tell my listeners, stay out of the Facebook rooms that are negative. If you hear somebody bashing somebody, don't hang out in that crowd. We need to really be positive and find those people. And I think that we can do some great things if we come together.
Well, if we get professional,
exactly.
This is why it's not considered professional. To work as a professional journalist. And that's why I don't even call myself a ufologist anymore. I call myself a journalist, an investigative journalist.
And you are so fabulous. And I have to just cut you off right there because we're going to go into break. But when we come back, there's so much more to talk to you about. And I am excited to talk to you about the ET contact and all of these great things. I am Erica Lukes. Thank you so much, everyone from all over the world, for listening tonight on UFO Classified. We will be right back.
By. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Where'd that shot come from?
Alpha 3 to Eagle 1, we've got company.
From Tate Publishing, codename Eagle Force, the saga begins.
I see them, Alpha 3. All units stay low and let them come.
From the eyes of a special ops officer, Joe Michael Riggy brings to life this amazing story of survival, the unknown and the unexpected.
Here they come. Hold your fire. Hold. Now.
Codename Eagle Force at TatePublishing.com.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis Coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
When danger is imminent, will you be prepared? Now many mobile devices can bring you critical information from local sources you trust. With the unique sound and vibration, wireless emergency alerts keep you in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, for Hyperspace, the one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride?
Coming March 18th, 2016.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Oh, welcome back, everyone. Happy Friday night. I am having a great show tonight, and I always appreciate you listening from all over the world. I have people contacting me every day with their stories and research that they have done. I feel very blessed to be in this position and to have the ability to do it thanks to my great radio station, KCOR, and my fabulous producer, who will be up next on Restricted Airspace. Next week, we have a new show coming, so the ladies lineup on Friday nights will be off the charts. We have Solaris Blue Raven, who will be joining us for Hyperspace. That is a unique show which uncovers supernatural, mystical sciences, paranormal, covert technology, UFOs, and the world of unseen forces. So you're going to have 3 ladies in one night. So stay tuned for that. We're really excited. I'm happy to be here with, speaking of a woman who is strong and fearless, Paola Harris is joining me tonight. She is hosting, she's put together the Starwork Symposium in Laughlin, Nevada. Please get your tickets November 11th through the 13th at the Aquarius Casino Resort. I am absolutely beside myself with excitement because I get to speak with, I'm going to be talking about MUFON, speaking on behalf of MUFON, and how we're going to lead MUFON into a new era of research. I'm honored. And Paula, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you. And we might want to tell the listeners that to go on the website, which is www.starworksusa.com, and they can see all the speakers. And we have Dr. Stephen Greer this year. He's going to do a 2-hour lecture. We have Jaime Maussan from Mexico City. He has the greatest videos in the world. I don't know where he gets them.
Well, I know he got one of them from me. Did you know that?
Well, no, but I'm glad you sent him them because people just sent him this these videos from all over the world, so he's got the best material. Did you send him the orb research that you're doing?
You know what? When I first had my sightings here, I caught some pretty remarkable footage, and he actually saw that footage. He didn't know it was me at the time. We hadn't really met each other, and he contacted Jan Harzan and said, "Whoa, do you know anything about this taking place in Utah?" And Jan sent me the video, and it was my video. So I've been on his show a few times down there, and that was a treat. And I have become friends with him, and I really enjoy him. And I think it's great that people feel comfortable enough to send him all of these videos.
Well, he's a journalist. Okay, that's another case where he's a journalist, I'm a journalist. We got to cover everything. And I had a case in northern Italy, the Maurizio Cavallo case, where this contactee had Polaroid pictures of beings, and they were people beings. And I wanted Jaime to come, and he actually flew across the ocean, met me in Milan. We got on a train. He brought all his equipment, and he helped me film this in Turin. And I've met him in different places of the world. He invited me to Mexico City. Actually, gave me an award to a major conference where Antonio Urzi was there, and he's another contactee who just looks up in the sky. He just feels it, and he films in broad daylight these metal craft.
Wow.
I mean, mind-blowing metal craft. The Adamski like craft with the balls underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And Antonio lives in Milano, and he and his wife have so much footage, and he lives in the top part of an apartment. He lives in the attic. So he opens up the attic window, and there it is. And he not so much gets messages as the feeling of when to film. And I'm telling you this story because I was in Mexico City, and when I walked in, I saw Antonio, and of course I speak Italian, and I said, "Don't go anywhere without me," because where you go, I want to see it. And the first thing he said was, "We're going to have an earthquake today or tomorrow," and I thought, "Oh, great." And sure enough, we had a small earthquake. We were downtown Mexico City. And then as we were going over to the World Trade Center where the conference was, I walked across the street with him, and I looked up in the blue sky. This is in broad daylight, and I couldn't see anything. And he says, "Paula, why aren't you looking in that corner? It's right there." And there was a white orb, and it was moving all over. It came closer, and at that minute, then the Mexican TV guys came out and they filmed it. I filmed it too. And he turned around to me and said, "Now do you believe?" And I thought, "Oh Lord, I looked at that sky. I saw nothing.
Wow.
I couldn't see it until he pointed it out. He pointed it out with his finger. When he showed me where in the sky it was, I said, "Oh my God, we could be looking at a blue sky, and it is there."
Right. Absolutely. And you have had some interesting experiences as of late too. You had a pretty phenomenal experience that you and I spoke about, and you wrote a story about your experience with Ariel.
Yeah, and well, I'll tell you what.
Or Antral. It's Antral.
Antral. Yeah, for people who want the details, because I don't have enough time to go into all the detail. They could go on my personal website, www.paolaharris.com, Paola Harris.com. And I'm doing research on human-type aliens. In the United States, we had these people coming to us in the 50s. The movie The Day the Earth Stood Still came out. It was influenced by the contacts of George Van Tassel in Desert Center in Southern California. It was influenced by George Adamski, who had a contact with Orthon near San Diego. In fact, Orthon left his footprint, and it was actually cast by George Hunt Williamson. So we know there was a guy, and we know came off a ship, and we know that Adamski was telling the truth. And then in the East Coast, there was Howard Menger. And Howard Menger not only has photographs of these people sitting in his backyard, but his book, From Outer Space to You, just blows people away. We, in the modern age, have forgotten these contacts in the 50s. And, of course, they were here to tell us not to use nuclear. that we were going into the nuclear age, that we could destroy ourselves, and they had messages for us in the 50s. Now, it catapulted over into the abduction scenario. We've forgotten all about the fact that they're aliens or people. Right. So I started doing research in South America, and I began with Sisto Paz Wells in Peru and his contacts. And and then Luis Fernando, who came to Laughlin last year, and Enrique Villanova. And I went to interview Ricardo Gonzalez. And Ricardo Gonzalez lives in Argentina, but he was one of the people that was influenced by Sixto Paz. He went out into the Chilca Desert, and these things happened out there, and he became a contactee where he was getting messages. It's done through automatic writing, a lot of this. So I got a message from Ricardo Gonzalez when he was in Mongolia that I was to go to Shasta because his contact, who's a 10-foot-tall person named Antarel, that comes from the planet Apu in the constellation of Alpha Centauri. I think it's 4 light years from here. That man, I'm going to call him a man because that's what I saw, it said that I needed to come to Shasta. And of course, you know, Ricardo does a conference in Shasta. It's camping 3 days. It's all in Spanish. So I didn't understand anything until they gave me an Italian interpreter who sat by me the whole 3 days. I had to do the camping. They camp out under the stars, and they also fast. Fasting and meditation and camping puts you into the alpha mode. So you're more likely to have contact, you're more likely to get messages and so forth because you're away from all civilization. Well, I didn't know what to expect. You know, Ricardo told me that at 8:30, if Antarel was going to show up in the forest, there would be a flyover. At 8:30, there were 2 UFOs that flew right over our heads, but I'm used to seeing that because I was with Dr. Greer in Crestone when we shot the film Sirius. I was his consultant, and I saw all kinds of UFOs. So
that's such a great movie.
Yeah, and you know, we saw them in 6 days. I mean, I'm seeing so many that you just see them, you know. You don't think anything, you know, you don't think anything because you see them and you're so used to seeing them. So these 2 flew over at 8:30 on the dot, and this is one of the things that happens with Ricardo. Antarel gives him the exact time. The year before it was 9 o'clock, and Dr. Michael Sala was there, and that film footage is incredible. And that is also on Ricardo's website, the film footage. And this one, with the flyovers on my website, and basically I just was looking at, I thought, wasn't it nice and so forth, but then he came up to me and said, can you handle this? He's in the forest. And so it was terrifying. I mean, I knew that it was harmless and that nothing would happen to me, but I got to assure people that are listening that contact is destabilizing because it's another reality. So, and it was midnight. There was no moon because they always pick nights where there's no moon, so there's no light pollution. We weren't allowed to use any flashlights, and I'm walking down with 3 Spanish women. Actually 2 Spanish women and me. And we're told not to go very far until we see a rise from the ground. And this happens in Peru. With the contacts there, something called a zendra, which is a mist that comes up from the ground. It is a common atmosphere between you and the being, and evidently it's a portal of some kind. So I did see it happen. It was long. This one was not dome-shaped. It was long. It was like a strip. It was next to a little fir tree, and Ricardo said, I can't go, but you need to stand in there. And you just, each one of you let go of each other's hands and you'll get messages. And I walked into Zendra and I could see against a tree a 10-foot-tall man. He was dressed in a hoodie. He had like a hoodie. It looked like a gym outfit. And he was very tall. And I couldn't see his hair, but he is blonde. I mean, there's an image of Antarel, I think, on my website. Not a picture, just a drawing. And so I stood there, and this it sounded like a loudspeaker. This man was talking, and he was very tall up against the tree. I could see him, and he just talking a language I never heard of, and it certainly wasn't Spanish. Ricardo told me later that people from Apu speak Irdin, I-R-D-I-N, and at the very end of it was about 3 minutes of constant talking like a loudspeaker. It was like a loudspeaker, and it was not in my head. It was echoing through the whole forest, so I knew he was talking. He said in a robotic voice, very robotic, "Thank you." And he turned around and he walked back into the forest. Wow. And I saw him turn around, it just walk right back in there. And I was the only one that got that message. And the other women did not hear any of it. This is why I can't understand how this works. And I think he said, "Thank you," or either that or I'm making it up. I don't know.
Oh my
gosh. I hear that? How could I hear that? How could I hear the word "thank you"? And I didn't understand another word of what he said. Nothing. And so the thing is that I told Ricardo, he said, "Thank you." And Ricardo said, he said he asked me in Mongolia, because Ricardo was he was in Altai, he was in Mongolia when he got the message that Antarel wanted me in Shasta. So the thing is that this was a satisfaction, but it was for me very destabilizing. So I came home and I was absolutely a mess for 3 months, and I couldn't understand what was going on because my reality changed. You know, I'm nuts and bolts, and that I never imagined. I can't. It's very, very difficult. And people say, "Oh, I waited all my life to do that." No, it's not that easy. You're looking at another reality.
Yes.
So it happened because whoever is watching, the work. I mean, this was their way of saying thank you. I mean, I remember what started my career was Close Encounters, and basically, I remember the man in Close Encounters, who was Francois Truffaut, explaining in that movie that certain people are invited and certain people are contacted in Close Encounters, and so this was like the finish, the 360-degree finish of my career. It's not finished, but it was part of that.
But I mean, that is so amazing. I remember when you told me that story. I mean, it just, to me, like when I first, read Communion, when I first started exploring this, I just thought even that seems out there, but I knew it was real. But then now what was something that seems so odd to me now seems absolutely fact. I mean, it's fact. And so I hope that people open their minds and understand that there's so much to this phenomenon that we have to keep an open mind about. And these experiences are mind-blowing. They alter your reality, your perception, and there's a physical impact as well.
It's really hard. I don't know how to say it, but let me tell your listeners that Ricardo Gonzalez and Sol, his wife, will be in Laughlin. He will talk about this because he's had physical encounters with Antarel 8 times, and on I think 2 occasions he was taken aboard ship. And when I told Ricardo how afraid I am, he said, "I'm terrified every time it happens." This is in 20 years he's had 8 encounters. He's told where to go, and a lot of times it's in the Andes. Mountains, and he does it through automatic writing. His hand just goes by itself, and Antarel says we will be there at 8:30, and you have to go here, and so forth. And the agenda, if people want to know why they're here, is because they want us to grow and in consciousness. In other words, to wake up, because they are related to us in some way, and we are far behind the 8 ball. We're far beyond the evolution that we should be at, and all you have to do is watch the fighting and the debates to figure out. I'm thinking, my God, is this a civilized civilization or what? Anybody who's watching this is going, are these people, did they ever evolve? Are they still fighting each other and whatever? But the message is that if we will lead the way, they will give us a hand. but they are not about to do it without our wanting help. And that's a basic message. Ricardo says, it's consciousness. That's why all of my Laughlin conferences have the word consciousness, the evolution of human consciousness, which means it's not entertainment, it's growth. It's more of a mental and spiritual, not religious, but spiritual growth that will put you in a situation where you can even have a contact experience. Because I'll tell you, the only thing you have in common with Antaral or anybody else is a heart connection. You can never have an intellectual connection because those people are far, far more evolved than we are. You can look at Antaral and say, he's got a heart, you got a heart, he's alive, you're alive. That's about it. That's it. There's no other, I've come to the conclusion it's the heart connection. That is why they go to Latin America, because the people in Latin America have the biggest hearts, and they can communicate with those people, and those people do not ask about the technology and how the craft flies and if they can take the technology and make weapons of mass destruction with it. They don't bother with the craft. They don't care about how they get here. Whereas I think the human type aliens stopped coming here, Erica, in the 1950s, in the late 1950s. They figured all they care about is just getting our craft, and that's it. They don't care about any of us.
Oh, gosh. And I sure hope that changes, because I know people like yourself. I know other people that are forming these contact groups and networks. I mean, this is important. And there are so many wonderful, for all the politics and all the nonsense that has happened, the secrecy, there's so many wonderful people here in America that I believe want to have a peaceful interaction. And so hopefully we can all do our part to change that and move things in a positive direction.
Well, I agree. And because Ricardo's groups are in Spanish and Sisto Paz's groups are in Spanish, the only people that I recommend here actually are Stephen Greer and the CSETI project, because I've done 5, CSETI outings with him, and it's 6 days, and it's 9 o'clock at night till 2 in the morning, and it takes a while to establish an atmosphere where they want to come. But he starts from a very good point. He does the puja ceremony in Sanskrit. So he does the spiritual part, ahead of time. And then I learned just in the research, I'm doing nuts and bolts work. I'm on my way to Canada to interview another Peruvian. What I found out was that if you can quiet your mind and you can meditate and just quiet your mind, you leave an opening for them to talk to you.
Yes.
And the thing that's common with all of these contactees, whether they're here or they're in Italy or whether they're, whatever, is that they meditate. Which is not something I do.
When I meditate and I have a good meditation practice, I have very interesting experiences. I would, bordering on the paranormal, intuitive things. So that is the connection. It's the quieting of the mind and making that connection to our, to the consciousness. And I think that this is where we can really move research forward, is taking that seriously. And hopefully with MUFON, I think that Jan Harzan is doing great things with regards to moving in that direction. I'm very excited that all of us can work together. And I am, like I said, I really feel grateful, and I feel like my position here has been handed to me by something greater. So I hope I can... Well,
Jan Harzan's amazing, and Jan Harzan knows this, and Jan Harzan had contact when he was a young child. He and his brother saw landing right in their backyard, close to their backyard. And it was not an accident, because when they do that, when whoever does that, you have a responsibility to tell the world and to explain it. And I am very happy that you're meditating. And I don't have time to do that, but I got to start doing it at some given point. And, everybody tells me to do it, and then I go to the computer and I spend like 10 hours on the computer, and then I never get to it. But can I suggest, Erica, that you do a journal that you start journaling, and everything, when you finish meditation, whatever comes to you, that you write down, because that's when they can talk. That's the time that whoever is coming by can talk, whoever is flying by at that time, and it isn't always the same people, and I'm going to call extraterrestrials people because they're people.
Right.
Whoever happens to be in that atmosphere at that time that can give you a message will do it, and I think journaling is very important, or writing it down.
I do too, and I'm so excited that you are in my life and I get to learn from you, and thank you for being here. I just want to tell all of you, please go to YouTube and see Paola interviewing. Her interviews are brilliant, and they are, if you're in researching this field, you need to go there and see that. You can also go to paolaharris.com, and please come see us at Starworks in Laughlin, starworksusa.com. Buy your ticket, come down and see Barbara Lamb and Ron James, Jaime Musan, Dr. Stephen Greer. I will be speaking, and I'm honored to be doing that. Paola, thank you so much for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Well, thank you, and we'll talk again, and thank you for everything you do with an open heart, and that's what it takes.
Well, like I said, I feel blessed to be here, and I'm excited to learn, and I'm excited to share my knowledge and with people, and I appreciate all of your kindness, so thank you.
Okay.
All right.
You have a good weekend, too.
Thanks. You take care. And all of you, I thank you for listening. I want to just say that the next hour, I have got updates on my really cool case. So Pat from Fringe Radio is going to be joining me to tell us about that really exciting transmission he heard from an American Airlines pilot. I am Erica Lukes. This is UFO Classified. And tonight, Grant Cameron is going to be on restricted airspace. Super cool. So stick around. We will be right back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified. UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everyone. I am happy to be here. I'm Erica Lukes, and that was Paola Harris. In the last hour, I'm always grateful to have strong women who feel that they can share their research and are really great role models. It's such a pleasure for me to be speaking at Starworks. So come down and support us and come see me. That would be great. I hope that you're going to be listening to Restricted Airspace, because one of my favorite researchers in the field, Grant Cameron, is going to be on, and with all of the information about Podesta coming out and Hillary Clinton's statement, I have no doubt that Restricted Airspace is going to rock it out tonight. Now I have my friend who is amazing to me. He is a big supporter of Utah MUFON. Pat Daniels is the host of Fringe Radio Show on KTKK AM 630 in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I think if you are a researcher in the field of ufology, you have been on Pat's show. He's live every Saturday night from 6 to 10 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The Fringe Radio Show talks about, paranormal, ufology, aliens, science fiction, cryptozoology, so all of the cool things. And he really, I love listening to Pat. I've been on his show. He had a sighting in January that has really rocked my world because it was a transmission he overheard via ham radio. It was from an American Airlines pilot. That conversation has prompted an investigation that now involves Utah MUFON. My assistant state director, Jeff Cox, has been incredibly helpful. I cannot thank him enough. And William Puckett. We have done a FOIA request, and the information we have obtained through the FAA has been very, very intriguing. So, Pat, welcome to my show.
Erica, how are you, my friend?
You know what? I am so good. I'm excited that I get to interview you. This is really cool.
Well, it's an honor to be on your program.
Oh, no, I appreciate you and all the hard work that you have done in your career. And thank you so much and I have to give a little shout out to our friend Bill, because Bill told me that you had heard this transmission. He's like, you got to get a hold of Pat. You've got to get a hold of him. And so I contacted you. Tell our listeners the story.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, sorry, I've got a few fire engines going by. They're going to pass in a second. As you mentioned, I've been an amateur radio operator for over 40 some years. It's a hobby that really molded my life through meeting different people. It actually chose my career path by meeting different people. And I think the biggest thing for me was, it's come full circle, is the opportunity to take, which is a hobby that has been around for a long, long time, and then to get the opportunity to do, to do AM terrestrial radio was just huge, absolutely huge. So I feel like I've come full circle with it, but I've really fallen in love with the hobby because there's so many different aspects of it. And the one aspect in particular that I called you about, and I believe messaged you that night, is I was working from home late at night, a little bit after midnight, and I was listening to the Salt Lake City Airport, listening to the scanner at the Salt Lake City Airport. And essentially what happened is the scanner, of course, scans many, many frequencies, but I caught bits and pieces. I actually wish I could have caught a little bit more, but it was enough to trigger off, the chain of events that brought you involved and MUFON, and then, of course, Bill Puckett to get involved with it, was a pilot that was, I believe the flight originated from Philadelphia en route to San Francisco. And again, through your research and Bill's research, we determined this. But the pilot had indicated that he was seeing bright lights. Actually, he mentioned about seeing a bright orange square below him, and was in connection with the Salt Lake Center, actually, talking to them, saying that, first of all, one of his first questions was, are you getting this on radar? Because they were seeing something that obviously caught their eye. And then Salt Lake Center indicated that the aircraft was over Nephi, Utah. And again, the concern was the pilot saw this bright orange square in the air, and obviously had some concern. And again, the scanner took off and started scanning through different frequencies and came back. But I thought that was really notable because, again, so many pilots, I have a lot of friends who are retired pilots, retired Delta pilots, and stuff like that you just don't talk about. They don't. I mean, it's still, as much as we talk about these subjects and your listeners and our listeners talk about it, in some arenas, pilots especially, it's something that you don't even move toward that area. So I thought it was quite unique that the pilot actually did request to see if Salt Lake Center or Salt Lake City Airport was getting some sort of a radar blip, and that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, and that was very interesting. So you've been doing this for 40 years. Have you ever heard anything like that?
No. And I've been a scanner enthusiast. Of course, on Fringe Radio, I bring a lot of guests on to talk about amateur radio because it is such a fascinating hobby, especially with space communications and stuff like that. But I'm a scanning enthusiast, as a lot of people are, and that's where I picked this up, and I've talked to other people about it, and nobody really has ever heard anything like that mentioned in the past. That's why I thought it was so interesting, and we needed to do a little bit of digging, or at least get that off to you, and you took it and ran with it very professionally, and it looks like we definitely moved the needle, as they say.
Well, it is interesting because it's been very educational for me because I get to learn more and more about radar, and I'm so grateful that Bill is on our team, and my assistant state director, Jeff Cox, went down there a couple days ago and did all of he took photos. He's put an ad in the paper down there to see if any witnesses will come forward, and even if this is, and I can't imagine, especially with the radar data, that this is something that is not out of the ordinary. I mean, this is going to open up so many doors. I talked to a person down there that said, "Oh yeah, we see unexplainable things here, and that's a way of life." And whether she's just having a mistaken identity or whether there truly is something going on, this opens doors, and I think that is incredibly important.
Oh, without a doubt. And again, it's the first time that I've ever captured anything or heard anything like that. And of course, it's all about timing. If I wasn't there and the scanner wasn't on the right frequency, you would have never heard it. But now it makes me more astute to listen a little bit more, cautiously. And of course, we've talked, there are tools out there. I actually gave a little bit of a talk on our good friend Bill, who runs the Skywatch channel on YouTube, which just brings a terrific amount of people to that, and they do live Skywatch. As we got into the conversation of this, and it really perked people up to, first of all, look at potentially purchasing a scanner, which is very affordable. And as we mentioned, there is some websites out there that actually give live radar data, GPS data of commercial and private airline flights. And it was kind of cool to be able to correlate the two together. So there are tools out there that the general public can use, and it's interesting and makes somewhat of a hobby out of it.
And that's the cool thing. Like, even if you don't see the big mothership, you're still learning more about the world, about technology, about the natural environment. I mean, the whole thing is so educational. I love it. But then I think that, when you start researching this, you realize that there truly is much more going on than we have an understanding about. And exactly. I think this case, especially with the radar data, William was saying that, my gosh, they have got the radar data on this is incredible. So you have to go to either my website, UFO Classified, or Bill Puckett's UFOs of Northwest to really look at all of the work that he's done with regards to the radar data. So we will see what happens. I know that we're ruling out, with regards to what the pilot said, a plant. There's a power plant down there just outside of Nephi. And so we're trying to make sure that isn't perhaps the square light that the pilot was reporting. And then just, dotting our I's and crossing our T's and trying to gather people's testimonies. So if any of you have seen anything in that area, please contact Utah MUFON, because it is through your witness testimony that we really get leads for good cases. And when you get radar data, this is the end all be all. So I can't thank you enough for that, Pat. You rock.
Oh, no problem. Well, again, I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see that that you and Bill both took this. And again, as I've always said, it may be nothing. It may be a phenomenon. I don't sense that, though. When I took a look at which anybody can do, and you can find the information on those sites you gave, you can take the actual flight number and plug that in. You can actually go out. I believe it was if I'm not correct, it was an American Airlines flight, and the flight number. You can actually go out to Google, key that in, and it'll show you the flights and the flight tracks that flight takes on a daily basis. I believe that was a fairly large aircraft, and I would assume that, again, seasoned pilots that fly large, I don't know if it was an Airbus or what it was, something had to have, in my thought, had to stick out a little bit, that they would have actually been concerned enough to see if there was something on radar. That's the thing that really raised the attention flag for me.
It's a great case, and I think that we'll find some interesting things out. I talked to Bill today, and he absolutely feels, and he's been in communication with other people, that this is something truly unexplainable, extraordinary. I have people that I am talking to glean information from, and this is cool. And this is why people have to really report sightings, because it's
right.
Just that simple report that can lead to something phenomenal taking place.
Right. And the other thing too that people really need to, in today's technology world, something that that I've talked about on the program a couple of times, is that if you have a sighting, a local sighting, use some of the free tools that are really available to you. Not necessarily this airline tracking, but you've got Google Earth and Google Maps and Google Streets. You can actually take Google Earth, pinpoint a location, and actually vector up some things and get some approximations. It's pretty amazing what you can do with Google. It's amazing that Google is so intertwined in our life. But use some of these internet resources, and when you have a sighting, use the tools to maybe pinpoint things, or at least get a perception.
Right, and too, I think that it really helps when you are looking into this and you have an open mind. I mean, you learn about photography, learn about how to estimate things, learn about using stellariums, so you're learning, what you're seeing in the nighttime sky. And don't also, when you're learning about this, don't come into this with your belief systems imposed on this, because I think sometimes with regards to this phenomenon, people always think, well, if it's over, airspace, or, the FAA flight corridor, we're not going to be experiencing anything, because why would they fly here? We don't know. Keep an open mind. Learn how to identify helicopters, learn how to identify aircraft, learn what natural phenomena is. Do all of these things and become your own investigator, because it is, I think, the civilian population, all of us, that are really going to push the boundaries on this and make some incredible change and a big leap forward with research.
Without a doubt. And again, there's a lot of tools out there that people can use at no cost. And, take the time. If you have the interest, take the time to do the due diligence. And again, with organizations like MUFON, there's somebody out there to listen to you. People don't think you're crazy. Maybe you did see something that's very commonplace, but maybe you didn't. And use the tools that are available to you, and move forward with it. Report it. That's what I keep preaching all the time.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that, and it's important to do that. I hope in Utah, at least, that people will realize that there is a place that they can go to talk about their experiences, because we know that in Utah we have some incredible stuff going on here, and we have for decades, if not longer than that. We know longer than that. I mean, Skinwalker Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, and I know that you have done some great interviews with regards to Skinwalker Ranch.
I have. I've had Ryan Burns on the program a couple of times. I've interviewed a few other people that have been down in the Uinta Basin, and yeah, it's a crazy place. People are seeing a lot of crazy things. There's some really good photos out there people can take a look at. I don't feel they're photoshopped or anything, but go take a look at it. People are seeing craft right in broad daylight. So it's an interesting place. And of course, you know, we always talk about Area 51, but we've got Dugway Proving Grounds right on the, you know, over on the other side of the other valley, on the other side of the Tooele Valley. There's runways out there that are 3 times that of Groom Lake. A lot of things are happening out there. Of course, there's a lot of drone programs and stuff going on. But yeah, we live in an interesting part of the country for sure.
We do, and I think that it's also interesting here that there are so many people that don't look up or don't pay attention to what's going on, especially when we have a military installation that is testing things that we need to be aware of as citizens. I think that's my own personal opinion. But we have to look up just to be active members of society. I think that's really important. And you have had, not only have you overheard this ham transmission, you've had a couple sightings here in the Salt Lake Valley.
Yeah, I have. I had one back in Chicago back in '86, here in Salt Lake in '98, and then just this past fall, and I called you that night on the phone.
You did.
Saw some things flying through the sky, and of course, in all situations, I wasn't necessarily looking for them, but they did appear. And again, what we saw, here back in November, I believe it was, right in fall. I think it was one of the last nights before winter set in. Was what appeared to be, to me at least, what I thought was a satellite that was flying overhead. And then I thought it was unique that there was another satellite that was paralleling it. And I thought, wow, that's kind of strange. You never see them that close together. Of course, now these were just little dots of light. And then, of course, out of the southeast skies, 2 more paralleling, and then one little one coming up the middle of the valley, essentially. All meeting, joining together up to the north, and then dispersing on 45-degree angles in every direction. And again, I know it was. I know drones don't fly like that. I don't believe they were any kind of conventional aircraft by any means. I don't know what they were. I don't know if they were orbs. They were quite bright, solid-looking lights. Again, very, very high in the atmosphere. But that's without a doubt very, very out of the ordinary. That's as I've said so many times. If that is a product of our current world, we've got some really, really amazing technology. But I tend to believe it was something quite different.
Well, and if we do have this amazing technology, why don't we know about it? Being taxpayers, right. And I don't know. I can understand that we need to have certain secrets for security and all of that. Whatever. That's a whole different show, and we're not going to go there tonight. But we do have a great question from Brent in California with regards to the case that we're both involved in. He asks, has anyone reached out to the pilot for an interview from MUFON? And I can tell you that no, we have not, because we don't believe that we would be able to get a hold of his name. And so that is something that if we are lucky enough, if he gets wind of this and reports anything, that would be great, or clears the air on anything, we would love that. But it is incredibly difficult to get a hold of that information. So thanks, Brent, for asking that question. We appreciate it. And Pat,
and I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I think that anytime you're going to involve the FAA, a great ufologist and a good friend of mine and a researcher is Sam Morento from Chicago, my hometown, and I've had Sam on the program several times. Of course, he is the investigator that pretty much broke the O'Hare UFO sighting that literally thousands of people saw. And in talking to Sam in great depth about this on the air and off the air, the FAA, the airlines, they don't even want to touch those subjects, even though it wasn't reported by a pilot, but pilots did report seeing this thing. the general comment was there is no comment, and we're not going to go there. So I think, in retrospect to Brent's question, trying to get the pilot or something is probably could even be a career-threatening maneuver.
Yes, and that's something that we think about. I mean, I will tell you when I got wind of this case, and when William Puckin and I have had conversations about it. I mean, we're always concerned about that because we are incredibly grateful that anybody would even go, make a statement over, a transmission. So whether he was seeing something, we don't know. We probably will never know, but we are always grateful when somebody that has the life of so many, cares about the safety of people and different things. So I don't know. I really hope that at some point in time we will learn that this is something that should be researched and accepted and not career-threatening. I really hope that. But we're going to get ready to take a break here. I am with my good friend Pat from Fringe Radio. You're listening to UFO Classified on KCOR. Stick around because Grant Cameron is coming up on restricted airspace, and that is going to be a great interview. I think Grant is a brilliant researcher. I have tremendous respect for him. On my next show, I will be interviewing Will Smith, who has become a friend of mine, fabulous guy, and he takes amazing, amazing videos and photos of unexplained phenomena. So we will be right back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Three guys, no tie.
Hey, man, the rumor is that somebody's leaving. You better
rumor.
bring...
See, that's it, the rumor.
But no one would say that they're a rumor. And so I think that Ted Cruz got banged up a little bit badly on that one.
I don't. He's a punk. He just straight out acted like a douchebag.
If that's in fact what happened.
That's what happened. We saw it. Three guys, no ties. Wednesday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific. Right here on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, we take the KCOR Digital Radio Network off the grid and go deep inside the paranormal vault. Jump on the elevator and come take the ride down the rabbit hole of reality with BK Mojave and the Watcher as they unlock the vault and dust off some of their classified paranormal case files even the government doesn't know about. The Paranormal Vault. Mondays at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. This is the one show our secret government fears will speak the truth.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific.
For hyperspace.
The one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven.
Solaris Blue Raven.
Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride? Take a ride.
Coming March 18th, 2016.
This is the world-famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Oh, welcome back, everybody. I am happy to be here on Fantopia Friday. The ladies are rocking it out. And next week, Solaris Blue Raven is going to be here with her new show, Hyperspace. So you have got 3 kick-butt ladies who are going to be bringing you a fabulous ladies' night on KCOR. So get ready for it, because we are ready to rumble. I have to just give a little shout out to Aaron Hunter, who is in chat room. He has a show, and I need to talk to him. It is so cool. It's called Paranormal Activity. The podcast, it is Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and he talks about psychics. He talks about demonic activities, shadow people, possession, all of this cool stuff. And I just think all of this is so fascinating, and we just don't know where one piece of the puzzle drops off and the other one begins. So there you have it. And Pat, welcome back. You have been a great inspiration to me. You've been such a supporter of Utah MUFON. And speaking of, you're speaking at Utah MUFON next Saturday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I know. I can't wait.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it is so cool to see how great our chapter is becoming. We are getting new members all the time, and people are very energized to start to research this, because like I was saying before break, Skinwalker Ranch, we've got Dugway, Proving Ground. There's so much going on here. And I think really, honestly, all you have to do is educate yourself and look up, and you will see something that is unexplainable.
Or it will see you.
Yes, exactly. But what do you... So you've been doing this forever, and you're a researcher's researcher. What?
I am. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know that you have talked to everyone. Who is your favorite person to interview?
You.
I guess I should, we're so cute.
All of them, everybody. We're going into year 8 with Fringe Radio. Of course, we just do one night a week. I used to do 6 nights, but trying to work a full-time job and do midnights to 2, and then be in the technical realm for my career was getting a little bit tough. But Erica, I get a little something from everybody, and I've had some great interviews. I call myself a researcher's researcher because I'm not really a ufologist by any means. I don't even really have a desire to do that, although sometimes we tend to get immersed in that anyway. But I think that it's important to bring people on the program, to let people hear about different things. Whether you agree or disagree, that's fine. But again, I think it's just good to bring different people on, talk about their stories, talk about their work, talk about their books, and I think everybody gets a little bit of something out of it. Of course, when we started Fringe Radio, it was heavy paranormal and ufology, and then it kind of broke off into science, and of course I'm a big Titanic fan. I'm a big shipwreck fan. I've brought a lot of those type of guests on. And another subject that really interests me that's along the lines of psychology is serial killers. People have yeah, they do. People have a big interest in serial killers. We've kind of run the gamut. We've gone all over the place. We've had a lot of celebrities on the program over the years. But I can't really pick out any one guest because
you picked out me. You know,
well, I did pick out you. But besides you, everybody equally, it's so fun to have on, and you know, and kind of our interviews are like you do yours. They're more intimate interviews. I'm not a big fan of question and answer sessions. I can read that online, and the listeners can. So it's just nice to get people on the program and let them talk about their lives and how, you know, the research and the books and everything that they're into, how it's affected their lives. And I really find that interesting. And I've drawn what I really found interesting, especially in the field of ufology, is all the interconnectivity to some of these researchers. Our friend Stanton Friedman, Frank Rashino Jr., you know, I've had Frank on several times in his books about the Braxton Monster, but that directly ties and correlates into the DC UFOs of 1952.
Yeah.
And the more I hope someday I can write a book that I can take a little piece of everything and maybe tie it together as one big roadmap.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool? You would be so good at that. I would, and you know, I would write the foreword. I'm just throwing that out there.
Sure. Be glad to have you do it.
That's so cool. We have Fred from Florida who asked a great question in chat. With us being near Dugway, you know, and both of us have heard about the Area 51 alien technology being moved to Dugway. What are your thoughts? My thoughts are, yeah, that probably is true.
My thoughts are, I think it's been there all along. Again, if you go to Google Maps and take a look at Google Maps, just some interesting things about Dugway. Of course, they've got heightened security. The runways there are just ginormous. I mean, I don't know what they're taking off and landing there. But Dugway is really so isolated, and yet it's right in the open. You know, 51 is kind of hidden down in that valley, but Dugway is just so huge. But I believe there's a lot going on at Dugway, new drone technology, military technology. But yeah, I'd agree with Fred that yeah, there's just as much as Wright-Patterson. I think it's kind of spread all over the place.
I agree, and I think that, you know, Dugway is particularly interesting because we have our friend Dave Rosenfeld, Alien Dave, who has been out there on numerous occasions out on the periphery and has had an experience with them, you know, testing a laser that has the capability of poking a hole through a cloud, and did. And when he recounted the story, and he actually has video or pictures on his website where he saw different lights come in around this laser. And it was very interesting. So there is lots of top secret stuff going on there. And to me, I want to know what, you know, why? Why are we testing weapons like this? You know, it's something we need to be aware of. And I know we're never going to know because this is top secret military, but at some point in time, we do have the right to know, especially if we are potentially shooting down extraterrestrial craft. We should be able to make the decision as to whether we want to do that and how we want to be involved with extraterrestrial civilizations.
Oh, I agree. I do, and I think, like I said, there's a lot going on out there. I think where a lot of the stuff is at, I think a lot of it is kind of buried and maybe out in the more remote locations. But I believe there's a lot going on out there. I know a lot of people have seen things. I believe Dave has recorded some things. It's an interesting place to say without a doubt.
It is, and I always think that it's so interesting. You know, maybe this is just my mind going crazy, but having oh boy, I don't know how to say this, but perhaps being in a place where we don't necessarily ask a lot of questions, and I think we all are we are all guilty of this. We typically don't look up. We don't pay attention to our surroundings. We're not interactive with our community, and we don't ask questions of authority. And I think we need to perhaps maybe do that, especially with regards to some of these installations that could potentially pose a threat to our health.
I agree. I've followed, as I know you have, I've followed Stephen Bassett's work, and of course, your good friend Merrill Cook was part of a couple of his conventions or meetings that he put together in Washington. And just the whole disclosure movement. I really, and I've said this so many times, I don't ever think you're ever going to see an official disclosure. I believe that we've seen it already. Plenty of people have had sightings. They've had plenty of experiences. But I don't think the government will ever come out and formally announce anything, for the simple fact that look at all the hiding of things that goes on. Of course, Roswell, and there's many Roswell type of incidences across the world, across the globe. And I think that it's just been so protected in some cases. I think I believe technology has been recovered. And of course, I could understand that living in this great country, I would want to see us have a first shot at that. But I don't think you're ever going to see the day when any official's ever going to come out and formally say, I don't know what people would be looking for, but here's Joey the alien, and here's the spaceship. I don't think we'll ever see that. Yeah, Joey. I don't think we'll ever see that in our lifetime. I think someday we will. And again, I think that people they have strong beliefs in this. And as I've said many times, a lot of people, until they see the spacecraft in the Smithsonian, Aircraft Museum, they're not going to believe in it. But enough people have seen enough things that without a doubt they know things really exist. I just don't think we're ever going to get anybody to come out and make an official statement. That's just my belief.
I think it is very interesting, though, that Podesta has been so vocal about demanding disclosure from the government. I think it is interesting that Hillary Clinton came out and made the comments she made. And I believe that now there is enough with the internet. There are enough people that are talking about it that within minutes can exchange photos, information that they know they cannot keep a lid on it. And also with the privatization of space, you can't keep this a secret forever. And at some point in time, you have to cut your losses and come out of the closet and say, yeah, this is happening. And this is why we chose to keep it a secret. And it was to keep our public safe. I mean, I think that there are ways that this can be broached. I think it needs to be. And I honestly feel like in my lifetime that will happen.
I would love to see that. I really would. I think in maybe our children's lifetime, they will see it for sure, because I believe a lot of people that are in power are still going to be around for quite a while. And of course, there's the whole credibility thing. But I agree. I hope someday, and maybe, it's been talked about many times before that like the Vatican, maybe the first group to actually come out. And maybe they won't come out and necessarily say there's star fleets of ships around the sun and stuff like that. I have a little bit of a hard time with some of that stuff. But maybe there are some proof. There is some proof of alien life on this planet, and maybe it'll take one of the major religious organizations to bring it to light and go with the proof, and of course with the credibility. People will believe it, or at least buy into it.
Well, I mean, I think, and I've mentioned this before, and I mentioned this earlier when I was talking with Paola. I think at some point in time, we have to stop dividing ourselves into groups of believers and skeptics, because this isn't a belief system. This is a fact. There is more scientific data, and there's more, documents from the government. We have so much. Come on, let's get over it. And let's just say, how are we going to move research forward? And I think the biggest thing that we can do as people that take an interest in this is to just nip that in the bud and say, we are not going to go there anymore. This is not a belief. So move on with it. And, I honestly think, and maybe this is just me hoping and being the eternal optimist that I am, but I really think something is coming to a head. And I know that when I talk to people like Peter Davenport, when I talk to other researchers, they do feel that something is shifting, and that there's more, that we've got a higher frequency of sightings, more and more people are seeing things. You've got little bits and pieces that people like Podesta and Clinton are saying, NASA, all of this stuff. So it just is a really exciting time for us to be living.
Oh, I agree, and even to further define that, I've had Peter Robbins on the show many times. Great guy to have on, and the whole Renjlam forest incident. I've had the opportunity. Our good friend Bill has put together some interviews for me with people in that area, and of course I believe it was this past year, the whole Colonel Parks incident, where somebody over there really intervened in some of the things that that Parks believed in, and to some degree supported Larry Warren. That was all shut down. The whole thing kind of turned into a mess. It was supposed to be a nice presentation that went awry, and I believe it went awry for the reason that whoever that somebody or group wanted to suppress all that.
Yes.
And see, stuff like that right there, all that does is just raise more red flags. I mean, I think if you're going to if you want to really suppress something, let people talk and, come out and say, yeah, how'd you enjoy that bunch of crazies? Wasn't that fun? And it would have been over. But when they actually get in and they interfere with things and try to shut things down when the gun is already half cocked, all that does is just bring more. People just want to dig deeper, and now people say, okay, well, why were they shut down? And people start asking questions, and as we both know, that's what this is really all about. Ask those questions.
Yes, and that's a great point. And so let's just hope they keep digging a hole with regards to that. And I don't know. This is like the coolest thing, though, and I have to say that you're always such an inspiration to me, and you interview people, and I love interviewing people. I think you learn the most by speaking with people, hearing their stories, and getting them to open up with things. And so when you've been interviewing, what has been the most disturbing thing about the UFO phenomenon that you have heard?
The most disturbing thing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't say it's disturbing, but I've actually interviewed contactee Jesse Long. Jesse does not go on a lot of programs at all. Jesse went all the regression therapy that he went through, hypnotherapy he went through with Yvonne Smith. Jesse's a very private person. It was an honor to interview Jesse for a couple hours. And his experience of alien abduction, I totally believe this man 1,000%, and I refer to him all the time. His abduction, I don't want to call them stories, but experiences were just out of this world. I've listened to the interview several times. I'd actually like to get him back on the show, but he's already said what he's had to say. And again, he's kind of a private person, but boy, it was kind of, for me, it kind of shook me up. That abduction story, that interview in particular, really, it was very emotional, and I don't believe emotion like that can be acted out in any way. It was just pure emotion. It was scary, to say the least.
Oh, wow. I know you've been doing this for so long, I know that you interviewed Elaine Douglas.
Oh, yes.
She
was a great person.
She was, and it's been so interesting for me as Utah State Director now to step into her shoes as somebody that was incredibly brilliant. She was like a pit bull and tenacious, and she rubbed some people the wrong way, but people
did.
had respect for her. And I really have come to, in some regard, feel like I have a mentor, somebody that's leading me in a direction, and I feel really grateful. Tell me about your experiences with Elaine.
Oh, yeah, I know she's getting it now. I actually, when I reached out to Elaine some time ago when she was alive, and it was sad to hear that she passed, what was really interesting, well, when I reached out to her, she said, before I go on any program, I got to talk to the person. I said, okay. So I ended up calling her on a Saturday afternoon and early in an afternoon, and I ended up running my cell phone dead because we were on the phone for so long. Some of the insights, which I'm not going to go into here, but some of the insights about some of the organizations, she just basically told it how it is, and Elaine did not hold back on her feelings and some of the vocabulary that she used. She just, we talked, I believe, for this side of 3.5, 4 hours on the phone. It was just amazing, and just the conversation kept going to what? Okay, I want to hear more about this. It was a very interesting phone call. The phone call was awe-inspiring. And then we had the interview, which was great. And that interview is out there in the archive if people want to listen to it, to get the strength that this lady, I shouldn't say desire, but the emotion that this lady had about this whole subject. But yes, the thing that was very interesting, and I shared that with you, was I had heard through a mutual friend of ours, Marilee here in town, she had passed away. And what was very interesting was I received this email, and Eric, I passed it on to you, something not really publicly to post because of the language in it, but I got this email with a lot of expletives in it, a little bit confusing. And when I received that email from her, she had already passed 2 days prior. Now, that's one for the record book for me.
That is. And I like I said, I can't help but feeling in some regards, since I'm taking on her state and trying to do what she was trying to do. I feel inspired by her, and I'm very excited to continue her work. And it's so cool for me to talk to you about her and all of these things. And Pat, I thank you for being a big supporter of not only me and being my friend, but also Utah MUFON. I can't thank you enough, and I'm so excited to have you at our meeting next Saturday.
Looking forward to it.
That'll be great.
It'll be a lot of fun.
I know. I'm so excited. Please check out Pat on Fringe Radio on K-Talk. It's Saturday nights at 6 p.m. He is great host. And, I will always be posting stuff with regards to Pat and his shows and all the cool things he posts on Facebook. He's a Facebook friend of mine, so find me on UFO Classified and definitely keep in touch with me. Please send me your questions, comments. I am here because I care about spreading the truth with regards to this phenomena. It is so amazing and beautiful and frightening, and we have to come at this with a sense of respect, and we also need to be united in our efforts to moving research forward. I know that we can all do that. I thank you for your support. I can't tell you how much it means to know that I've got people listening from all over the world. This is so cool for me. Have a wonderful weekend. Definitely go grab, a margarita and stick around, because Tina Marie is going to be interviewing Grant Cameron, and I'm definitely sticking around. Like I said, next Friday we are going to be rocking it out with 3 ladies on Fantopia Friday. So tune in for that as Solaris Blue Raven makes her debut on KCOR. I'm Erica Lukes. This is UFO Classified. Next week, Will Smith will be here with me, and he is going to share all of the good sightings that he's had. He's from the United States, but he moved to Canada, and he takes the coolest UFO videos, photos. He's been researching this. This is the kind of person like Wayne Miller who's out there listening. These are the kind of people that we need to have out there photographing, getting information for us, coming together, supporting other researchers. This is cool. I hope you all have a fantastic Friday night. and I'm going to see you next week. So, stick around, grab the margarita. Groovy. Have a good night.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified. UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network.